welcome to Gardening with the Gardeners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape design, and all things horticulture, with a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner, operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with the family business. And together, we make up Gardening with the Gardeners.
Finally, we're back.
I know, it's been forever.
Way too long, and
But life has gotten in the way, once again.
yeah, it's bothered us that it's taken so long, but here we are.
Well, so first it was the flu. You had the flu.
Well, no, first Lily brought it home from her leadership, what do you call it?
Yes.
Thing.
And you got it. And
She
then I got
and
it.
Yeah.
And then it was Christmas
Yep.
and the holidays, basically, with New Year's.
Then we got colds again after that.
Yep. And then we all had a head cold.
Yep.
And then you have now torn your knee.
Yes.
And so with this wonderful snowstorm of 2026 that we're having here in Kentucky, we are snowed in. And so we've finally gotten back to doing a podcast.
Yeah, it's not been a fun winter, especially for you. You usually like to have me do all the outdoor, at least or most of the outdoor farm
No. All the outdoor in the winter.
farm activities with the
Yes.
animals and whatnot. And Hope is having to do everything. Lily's helping some for sure, but you're doing 90% of it.
90 plus, yeah. So what does that entail here on the farm? So in the morning, we are lucky enough that we have a automatic solar panel door, so the chickens go out in the morning.
But of course, yesterday, right when they're calling for all of the
Negative
bedlam breaking
temperatures.
out and snowmageddon, the door decides to not work. You couldn't get to close. So we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the mechanism, not charging or something, but
There's always something.
it's always something.
But they still need water, which is now to the point where it's not breaking water in the water buckets because it's full.
Frozen solid.
It's frozen solid. We're having to take hauling hot water out to try to thaw it. And then we change water with the rabbits twice or three times a day when we feed them. And we have to go out and let the ducks out in the morning and give them water and food.
And food.
So that's the first thing in the morning. And then mid-afternoon, I just finished going up to the barn. And again, it's breaking water for the pasture that has all of our female dairy goats in it. And then water for the back pasture, which we have the horse, the 2 miniature donkeys, and our male goat. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand if I go up there and not feed them. So whereas I would usually feed about 5 or 6, well, it's about 2 o'clock today because they're like, you're up here and you're feeding us and it's cold. So
Well, and you had to take a pickaxe and break up their water. Or luckily we got, several years ago, we learned the hard way. We got water hydrants installed close to the water so we could actually put fresh water in the middle of wintertime.
which I do love my frost-free hydrants now.
Yes.
And I will say, anybody that's listening that has a farm and frost-free hydrants, get the the corrugated landscape, the drain tiles.
Oh, yeah, we'll use a section of the 4-inch black, like the same stuff we use to extend downspouts on landscapes. I figured out like it would cut small sections, maybe 6 foot, 4 foot, depending on what it is. And we'll like stick that on top of the hydrant and then, or underneath it, and then run the hose straight to the water.
So it funnels water into...
directly to the trough. And it makes it
And
really
you
nice.
don't have to worry about water hoses, unscrewing them when it's freezing cold or screwing them back on, getting the threads just right.
Yeah.
You just stick it under that faucet and let it just...
It works better than that. One hydrant, we have a small section, like a 3 foot, 4 foot section. Well, it was a little bit longer than that of hose. And this was before this last storm, but it was so cold out there that I was trying to bend that, just trying to bend it through the fence, the wood fence, and it snapped off that section. And you were like, why is this so short? And I was like, I didn't cut
Yeah.
it. It looked like it's been cut, but it was like how cold it was. It was just
that
snapped.
garden hose absolutely just
Yeah.
snapped in half. Which you don't think about that in the heat of the summertime when they're so pliable. In the winter when they're frozen, it just breaks off.
Yeah.
So that corrugated drain tile pipe worked really, really well.
And then yesterday, you actually got me out. So Lily drove me back to the truck garage, got the John Deere tractor out, because you wanted me to put hay bales out, the round bales, move those around. So I had to crawl up in the tractor with my knee. I was able to do it, luckily. And
yes, but you are getting chauffeured quite a bit.
we go to the orthopedic surgeon tomorrow. I'll find out. Although it is a torn meniscus, so we got to figure out what next steps are.
So with this cold weather and you getting chauffeured around, let's go ahead and talk about cold weather and plants.
Well, yes, there's lots to talk about. One thing that came to mind in particular, I was like, we should talk about this on the show. A good client of mine just texted me, yesterday, I think, and asked if she and her husband, they're both from the South, and I know they do this a lot more down in, well, maybe not. It's maybe more north, or I don't know. Anyways, it's something we didn't grow up doing, but I've heard about it, is wrapping evergreens with burlap or some sort of, burlap's the best way to do it. But
we know, when it comes down to like Derby time and we get these late frosts, everybody wants to cover their plants to protect them from frost.
And you'll see people throw towels and sheets
towels,
and all kinds of bed.
Yeah.
And it's just something, as a general practice, it's something that you and I have never really recommended or do ourselves. And
for various reasons.
But we tend to be more of a laissez-faire, as we've said before, laissez-faire, kind of let nature do her job and let the plants do their thing. I don't believe University of Kentucky recommends it, but
I have not come across it yet.
I know Fred Rishi back in the day maybe mentioned, if you're going to use something, use burlap. I believe the Minneapolis or Minnesota Extension office in like North Dakota, places where it gets even colder, even though we're getting those kind of weather now.
And they get a lot of wind.
Yeah. They would say maybe it's good to do a small, like a wrap, wrap them with burlap or a porous product. That's not going to put too much stress on the plant. Wrap it loosely. And then, ideally, I like your recommendation. If you're going to do it, it's more about like making a wind screen, like a fence. Like you said, driving stakes in the ground.
Now, of course, the ground's frozen here right now.
So there's no point.
So there's this would be a complete afterthought if you're trying to.
Yeah, don't worry about it now.
Do it now.
It's got to be done well before the storm comes.
Yeah. So in the fall, when you can still, drive a stake down, and it may be, 2 stakes on the wind side, or if you wanted to do 4 stakes all around and create a whole little square.
The southwest side of it, or windward side of the evergreens, yeah.
Yeah. Or just do a square around it, but you're wrapping around the stakes.
And you leave the top open.
And it's not touching the plant itself. Now people have asked me about, do I need to cover my plant now? Well, with the snow, the weight of the snow and then the potential ice that we're having, I don't want that additional weight resting on the plant. If you're creating a solid surface with a sheet or burlap, all of that weight is resting on those branches and the tips of the leaves. If you don't have it covered, some of that snow just, breaks, it goes down through the leaves and down into the ground. Whereas if you have that sheet or burlap on top, all of that weight is on top of the plant. And then there's a potential of breaking branches. And it does more damage than good, I think, in some situations.
I think it does, too. And that's kind of why you and I tend to not actually advocate for it, because it's hard to do it just right. You'll see videos online of people doing it. And again, some people swear by it. I think as a general rule of thumb, it's better not to do it. And again, if you're going to do it, use burlap. Try not to wrap it tightly. Use it more as a barrier, like a fence, like a type, And you're only doing it on new evergreens, like stuff that's planted this year. My client had a good question, and I said I think it's fine to leave it alone, let it ride, because we planted some nice little gem magnolias for her, beautiful trees. I mean, they're nice specimens, and rightly so. She's concerned about them, and one of them is kind of already showing some winter damage, especially a first year magnolia. The leaves will brown out, and it may lose, even come spring, it may lose all of its leaves, but then those buds will
reform.
Yeah,
you'll have
flush
new
out
leaves come
and
out.
flush out new growth.
So I think really the way I kind of look at it, and this happened I think when we had that really bad storm in 2023.
Was that the one that was...
fall, we had a bad drought. And I know that we've talked about this before. But
I'm glad you're bringing this up. This is good.
Go into winter in a... stressed or dehydrated state, you're going to see a lot more winter damage. People sometimes they think, it's the temperatures or what. It's a lot of times that winter wind, it pulls all the moisture out of a broadleaf evergreen.
Yes. And so that's why they're saying, oh, we should wrap them, which it could help some.
It could help, yeah, because you're having less wind go through, the bottom of those leaves, pulling moisture out. But if you take care of that plant in the fall so that it's not going into winter
Stressed out.
dehydrated, then you're going to see less damage. Now, of course, we're getting into negative temperatures the next couple of days, and I don't think there's anything you can really do to prevent some damage.
And the good thing is, since we are getting so cold, this is where the snow has been a benefit, because the snow will actually act like a winter mulch, if you will, and it insulate the plant. It'll help. So those perennials that are covered in snow, even some of your shrubs and things that are covered in snow, that's actually a good thing. It'll help kind of hold in that moisture and kind of not keep them from drying out. And it actually does protect them from like super colder temperatures too. It does add a layer of insulation.
Oh, definitely so. Yes.
So that being said, this kind of goes into another thing we want to talk about. You don't need to go outside and knock the snow off your plants. If you have a shrub that's leaning totally over with light snow, you might be able to lightly brush it off. But again, whenever clients call me and you say the same thing, I say leave it alone, because especially during we're lucky. I think our son was at UK. He said Lexington had more ice, is what you said.
Yes.
So
yeah, we haven't gotten the significant ice that some of the counties and towns south of us have.
Yes, and with ice, you definitely don't want to touch the plant, even though you may see a crepe myrtle or your arborvitae or on and on and on, leaning completely over and doing a curved touching.
Yeah, they're touching the ground.
Yeah, touching the other side of the ground. I mean, I've had huge river birch that totally bend over, end up being like a weeping tree when they're not supposed to be. And it's better to leave those branches alone and not try to knock off that ice, because you'll actually do damage to the tissue.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so you'll actually can do more damage instead of just letting the tree thaw out naturally, and it'll come back up. You may have some damage. You may have to trim some things, damaged or.
Yes. Yeah. So trying to explain that to clients, if you put a leaf of lettuce in the freezer, when you bring it out and it thaws, all of that frozen tissue on the inside, you've got cell damage, and that's what becomes very wilty. And a lot of times, if you have evergreens or leafy material, if it freezes, if you don't touch it, because those plants are normally they're accustomed to going through winter.
Yeah.
Don't touch it and let it thaw naturally. You're not breaking those frozen cells.
That's it.
If you go through there and you are manipulating cells that are frozen, the chances of you doing interior damage is greater than if you just let them naturally freeze and thaw like they expect to do.
And that's why we're back to what you always say. A lot of times it's better just to let nature run its course.
Yeah.
And do its thing, and just sit inside, drink your hot cocoa or coffee or tea, and just relax.
Yes. Now, I think also it needs to be said, and you and I talked about this before the show, right plant, right place.
100%.
So if you know that there's a broadleaf evergreen that you love and you want it on the southwest side of the house, knowing that that's the side that we're going to get most of our winter winds and damage, that's not the right place to put that plant.
Yeah, you want to
put it on someplace that's going to be a little bit more sheltered or protected. And I think a lot of times, we really want southern plants here. And sometimes we're a little bit too far north.
We're pushing the envelope.
We are. So we have a perfect example of this on the side of our garage. We have a beautiful Aucuba. Yeah, it's that gold dust. And there's a lot of places, even in Louisville, where they have these warmer microclimates, and the Aucubas do gorgeous. I mean, they're big, beautiful, evergreen. This one has splashes of bright yellow on it. It's a showpiece. When we planted it, we put it on the side of the garage that it's a lot more protected.
Facing, yeah.
And even in that snow or that storm in 23, it got burned, it got damaged, but it did not.
It was amazing. I know it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Where a lot of plants were, burned all the way to the ground. This is an example of a plant that really should not be growing in our zone. It's at least one zone further south.
Especially when we have weather like this.
Yeah. And weather like this is really kind of pushing that envelope. And I looked at it this morning when I walked by. Those leaves are definitely, they're curled in.
They're
curl
in.
Down.
They almost they almost shrink up, saying let me hold my moisture in.
They're saying, I'm cold. And I'm like, baby, I'm right there with you. But because we have it on that north-facing side, and it's
in the right place.
Yeah. It's not getting that crazy wind or not as much.
It does well.
It is, it's an example of putting the wrong plant in the right place.
No, it's not the wrong plant.
Well, because it really shouldn't be in our zone. But
Well,
we're doing
but
a really good job.
I remember before we had our awesome Akubas and stuff, like Margaret Culp, she was a great gardener and well-known feature in the gardening
Horticulture,
scene
yeah.
in Louisville, and great client as well. And she had, it was the most beautiful Akuba I've seen on the side of her house. But again, right place. I think she had it there for like 30 years. And
But
this
it was
thing
a brick
like
house.
6 foot. Oh yeah, it was spectacular. So it can be done.
Yes, and that brick, and that's another good point. That brick warms up and it holds that
It does.
that heat in the
Creates a little radiant
daylight.
heat, little microcosm.
Yeah, and then at night when it cools down, that heat releases off of that brick and it keeps that moist.
Microclimate, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps it nice and warm, and so you can get away with some stretching those boundaries a little bit with these microclimates.
So I guess if anything, just to sum this up, is patience. Gardening requires a lot of patience. So you have to be patient with the weather. You have to be patient and just let Mother Nature run its course. And it back to what you're talking about with that massive, 50-degree temperature drop we had 3 years ago. I guess like it's 2023, I guess it was. And we lost so many laurels and boxwoods and broadleaf evergreens. But I had the clients of mine who were patient and did not replace those skip laurels or autoleucans. A lot of them, I mean, the majority of them actually came back. They came back from the rootstock. They got knocked hard to the ground. They looked like they were totally dead. And I can't tell you how many we replaced and ripped out. And we were literally ripping out massive plants. And I was like, oh, this is going to come back. And there's the people who were patient, it paid off. So
It did. Now they're just now, 3 years later, or I guess we've had 2 full years later, they're just now getting to the size of a lot of them that were before they got hit.
But they
by
have that
storm.
strong rootstock, and they've gone through that rough weather,
Yes.
and it makes them stronger and more
does.
resilient in the long run. The newly planted ones, you're starting back over again, that whole,
Well, because think about that root system in the ground
Mm-hmm.
and what a large root system it had to sustain a large plant above ground. And so when the top dies, it still has that massive root system underneath.
Exactly.
So it has all of those roots
And
that
all
have
that
the
energy.
energy to push up. So it's starting with a stronger root
and it grows
system.
faster.
It does.
Yeah.
It
And that's
does.
what we talked about with crepe myrtles that get knocked to the ground. Just be patient, even though you may have planted a 10-foot crepe myrtle tree that looks spectacular. Let it come back, and it'll be back in 2 years. Big,
And
huge.
I'd say we're probably going to have some crepe myrtles get kind of
Hopefully
hit
ours.
with this.
I know we've got a bunch on the property. Hopefully
I
ours
know.
are okay.
We'll let you know later on. But
Exactly.
yeah, that'll be a nice spring podcast that we'll have later on is how to handle these crepe myrtles that all have gotten.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess one last thing I'd like to just mention, salt damage,
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Or a great topic to talk
yeah,
about.
and
not a great-
especially, we're lucky we're on our own farm. We don't use any salt products of any kind for our sidewalks, and for various reasons, not just for our plants, but for our pets. I don't think it's the best thing for your dogs and their feet and things. If you live in town and or a neighborhood where you're required to clean your walks or use salt, or the HOA or the metro area, or they may salt the roads or the sidewalks if you have city-owned sidewalks. And if you have, boxwoods or other plants that don't like that planted close by, it can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, salt can cause a lot of damage.
And it gets on the plant, it burns the foliage, it gets in the soil,
Yeah.
changes the pH.
pH.
And so one thing you could do is that's back to where we're wrapping. If you had if you're in old Louisville and the city of Louisville's gonna be spraying salt all down those streets, and you've got like one of these cool boxwood gardens in your front yard, which I've been known to put in all over the place because they look great in those old houses. But that salt gets thrown pretty far, and it could get thrown up in those boxwoods. That situation might be a great place to use that burlap, almost like a fence, and put it up with, like you said, your nice driven-in stakes. They're not right on top of the boxwoods, kind of pushed away, but it helps keep that salt, maybe, lessens the impact. If you can't do that, the next warm day we have, when you're able to actually turn on your outdoor water and your hose, we both recommend trying to water, spray those plants down as much as possible.
Yes.
And dilute.
Yeah. Just try to dilute it. And here's another point that we were just talking about, not about the salt, but what we're really fortunate right now is because of our really cool temperatures. This snow is not one of those heavy, wet snows.
No, it's a real dry
this is
powder.
a really dry powder snow.
So again, another reason not to do anything. The plants are fine.
Yes. Now, we've had a quantity of snow, but you laughed at me last night. I get the gas blower, and I, instead of going out there with a shovel and trying to shovel snow, this is so light.
It works with this snow for sure.
You can get a blower that you use to blow leaves or whatever, and you can literally blow the sidewalks off so that you're not having to, use all of that energy. And because I know they do talk about, a lot of men that go out and try to shovel the driveway end up having heart attacks.
I know they say. I don't know if that's urban legend or not. But they say the number one source of heart attacks in old men is shoveling snow. Yeah. It is. It's very hard work, as everybody knows. It's very hard work.
I was doing it to let the dogs out so that the dogs could have a pathway from the house, because they don't have a small, a small dog.
Molly, the wire hair fox terrier, she got short little legs.
She doesn't like trying to walk. Well, because the snow is deeper than her legs are tall.
Amelia, the German hair, short hair pointer, doesn't mind as much. But
no, she doesn't. But I was blowing that snow off to give them a pathway out to the yard. So, just to keep that in mind too. So.
Well, I think, that's a good first podcast back. I think we'll keep it short for now because we're planning on recording a bunch more here coming up soon, but we'll at least touch base.
We're hoping to get back on a schedule.
Yeah. So thought this would be a nice little time, especially with these questions we get from clients. I was like, oh, this is perfect fodder for our podcast. So.
Yes, and hopefully, if we do have 15 listeners, one of you guys will think of another question to email us, which is a great segue to say that if you have any questions on landscape, gardening, horticulture, send them to us at GWTG. There we go. Gardening with the Gardeners. GWTG at BooneGardner.com.
Exactly.
And that's Gardner with the I.
Gardiner.
Yep, that's us. So thanks for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. Please subscribe or follow to get new episode updates. And please help us get the word out about our new podcast by dropping a rating and review. And to reiterate, if you have any questions on landscape, gardening, or horticulture, please send them to GWTG at BooneGardner.com. That's Gardening with the Gardeners. And don't forget, Gardner with an I. Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. We'll see you next time.